I made a little cheat sheet here to help you with the transformations in Module 2.5. If this helps you, great. If it doesn't, don't worry about it. Just do whatever works. So anyway, let me show you what I did, and you can decide if you want to use it. So here's a sheet. This is about transformations, right? Basically, that means you have a base function, if you can see that, a base function, and then you move it around the graph and shrink it and expand it. And this sheet kind of goes through this. I'll post this out there, but I wanted to show you what happens. So the x squared is the base. I feel like that's not big enough. Let's hope that focuses. All right, so the x squared is the base. And if you add and subtract 4 to the base, if it's a negative 4, you shift the graph down, and if it's positive 4, you're going to shift it up. Like every data point will have 4 added to it, so it'll go up. If the transformation involves something inside the parentheses where x is, then it moves the graph left and right. Okay, so if you have inside the parentheses, then it's a negative 2, it'll shift it right. If it's a positive 2, it'll shift it left by 2. All right, so here's the next thing. What about a negative sign? Well, if the negative sign is outside the parentheses, in other words, the whole graph, the whole y value has a negative sign, it's reflected about the x-axis. But if the negative sign is in front, in other words, the x itself has the negative sign, it's reflected about the y-axis. And then, I hope that's focused. Let me try something here. There we go. It's a little better. Okay. Now, when you multiply, right, outside the parentheses, if you multiply by a number greater than 1, you're going to stretch it vertically. And if it's less than 1, it's going to shrink it vertically, right? You're going to shrink it. And the same thing here, if the number is inside the parentheses, next to the x, then it's going to shrink if the number is greater than 1. And if it's less than 1, it will stretch horizontally. Okay, so those are the things that you can keep in mind. And let's just do a few examples here. So this first one, all right, what you must do is you got to start inside the parentheses and work your way out. Like this will be the last thing you do. Okay, so start in here. A minus 4 shifts it to the right, and then the plus 7 will shift it up. All right, look at this one. Start inside the parentheses here. Actually, I guess this should have a squared by it there. All right, so this will shift the graph to the right one because that's negative. And then you've got two operations here, right? First, you multiply outside the parentheses by a number less than 1. That's a shrink. That's a shrink. Okay, the 1/2 gives it shrink by 1/2. And then the negative reflects it about the x-axis. And then the last thing you do is you add 3. So it shifts up by 3. Let's look at this last one here. All right, so again, start inside the parentheses. Since that's a plus 3, you're going to shift to the left by 3. Then you multiply by a number greater than 1 outside the parentheses, and that's going to stretch vertically by 2. And then at the end, you're going to shift it all down 1. Okay? So anyway, I don't know. I just made that sheet by myself. I will upload both of those examples, and maybe that'll help you out. If not, don't pay attention to this.